exciting meeting where we're going to learn and share knowledge across board. Thank you very much for coming and coming on time. For those of you that came very early, that shows your commitment and your passion towards the growth of the association. Thank you very much. At this point in time, we'll take a safety brief from a hotel.
Welcome to Eco Hotels and Suites. Please listen to the following security and safety announcements. The hotel has trained emergency responders to address emergency situations. In case of a security breach or threat to life and property, please rest assured the hotel has a trained security team on patrol and at strategic spots on the premises, an armed police response team on standby. In addition, there are outsourced private security guards on duty 24 hours daily. Please take care of your valuables. We are not expecting a fire drill, but if there will be a fire drill, we will inform you. For this reason, any fire alarm you hear is real. We advise that you follow our fire marshal's instructions and use the nearest exit to the muster points shown on the screen. In case of a fire, do not panic. Our trained firemen and fire marshals will evacuate everyone to safety.
Thank you. May I now invite the chairman continuing education series, the president-elect, Mr. Biodo Ogunjobi F. NAPE. Please, can we give him a standing round of applause?
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you once again to our technical business meeting. The one for July is sponsored by Chevron Nigeria Limited. Please let us appreciate our sponsor. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to bring all these geoscientists and explorationists together. Every month like this, we come together to create this platform for us to share ideas, knowledge, best practices, and it's also an opportunity for networking, collaborations among the peers. We want to thank you all for making it here on time, and we'll do our best to make a judicious use of your time and not take too much of your time so that we can all go back to our various activities. So I want to extend our gratitude to everyone that is here today, especially our sponsor for this month. We appreciate you, and NAPE, and also at all the chapters, we have been creating a platform for intellectual discourse and also to share knowledge together across all the chapters that we have under NAPE. So we do it every month, and in the next coming week, we will also be in Benin. The PS will make announcements for all the upcoming technical meetings that will be coming up. So on this note, I would like to thank you and quickly appreciate some of our fellows that are online seated here. I want to start by recognizing Dr. Akomena Otere. He's our 001, he's an F NAPE. We also want to recognize Mrs. Doida Ojelabi. She's also online, FNAPE. Thank you for attending today's section. Dr. Muiwa Olawokin, FNAPE, is also online. And as we get more of our fellows in the meeting, we'll recognize them. So without taking too much of our time today, we'd like to appreciate everyone seated here on behalf of the president of NAPE, Mr. Elliot Ibe, who is unavoidably absent, but he sent his warm greetings. I want to appreciate you and look forward to more exciting moments from NAPE, and also look forward to the NAPE conference and other technical sections that will be coming up shortly. So at this point, I would like to introduce the chairman of today's occasion, who will then introduce the speaker for today. I would first like to recognize Mr. Shegun Obilaja, who is going to be our chairman for today. So I'll then hand over to Shegun. And before I do that, our speaker will be introduced by the chairman. Then we have the presentation for today. Please do sit back and enjoy the technical discourse that we are going to have this morning. Thank you very much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, fellows online, fellows in the house, good morning. Everyone hereby seated, you are welcome to today's technical presentation. I'll be hoping that I see the vitals of our presenter for today online, so that we could briefly go through it. But while that is being done, Billy Aminu is a known colleague in the industry from Chevron. I'm sure by the time you listen to him, you know, you will appreciate the gamut of experience that he's going to be sharing with us today. And the good thing about it is what he's going to be talking about spans both what we call static and dynamic world of our oil industry. In other words, he's going to share something about what we think will happen when we drill a well, what happens when we are drilling a well, and what happened after we drill the well. So it's actually covering from a static realm to a dynamic realm, and then how do they react? How do we react in the industry when things come out, whether the way we plan or worse than what we plan, or even better than what we plan? So I believe today we'll be having a very interesting technical discussion with Billy Aminu. Do we have okay, if you don't have it, I will just let Billy Aminu come in. But before he comes, I'm Shegun Bilaja. I'm from Shale. I'm also an explorer. And I'm happy that today on this podium, you'll be seeing people from the forefront of the industry, Shell, Chevron, Exxon, and they will all be here to share their knowledge. And I'm sure in the questioning time, we will also have enough time to question and increase our own awareness and understanding of this technical business that we are in. So once again, thank you very much for coming. Let's kick the ball rolling. Thank you. Billy Aminu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the introduction. Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Permit me to stand on existing protocols. I will be walking us through the topic on the board, the impacts of subtle reservoir stratigraphic changes on fluid dynamics. And this is from DD Reservoir. And I want to acknowledge my colleagues on the board with whom we work together. So the discussion will proceed along this outline. So we're going to look at a statement of the challenge associated with this work and how we respond to that. I'll briefly highlight the data we used. We'll look at the methodology along which We carried out the work. And then we're going to discuss results. And under that, we're going to look at brief field and overview of the reservoir. And then that includes reservoir stratigraphy, because that's a key subject of discussion today. And then we'll look at what are the influences of stratigraphy on fluids in the process of assessing the opportunity in the reservoir, and also in the process of planning, drilling the new well. Then we'll look at also the influence of stratigraphy on reservoir performance after we brought in the new well along with existing wells. So we encounter some challenges from this, and so we have to react by managing our water injection strategy. So we're going to look at that as well. Then we'll summarize and then conclude. Looking at this, so on the extreme left, we have a visual log, and in the center, we have typical density neutron logs, and then we have porosity, and this is water saturation. I want to stimulate our thoughts. Looking at these logs, we can say the reservoir is a bit blocky, it's not too heterogeneous, probably, yeah, it's maybe good sand. Yeah, of course it is. But then, when we look at gamma ray, so on the visual, sorry, I'm having some lags on this. So on the visual, it looks nice, blocky, continuous. You can say maybe it's more homogeneous. But when you go to look at the gamma ray, you will see that it's not quite the way the visual depicts it. There is a lot more heterogeneities. And some of these heterogeneities, when you take them, you will see they are continuous. Some of them start and they didn't carry across. They are probably localized across 2 or 3 wells. And if you look at the top of the reservoir, you can see that there is even more increase in dirtiness compared to the lower parts. I'm going to introduce to us that the reservoir has 3 different sequences. At the very bottom, we have a regressive layer, which is clean, more cleaner, continuous. And then we have another regressive sand on top of that. And at the very top of the reservoir, we have a transgressive layer, which relates to some marine, transgressions. Now, superimposing core data, so the dotted cycles are core data. You can see, and then the visual is the green on field curve there. So you can see that the core data perfectly matches our gamma ray log, which is more granular, which has more detail than the visual. What does this tell us? Gamma ray is key, is very important if we're watching out for reservoir heterogeneities. Visual may max it. So, in summary, always integrate visual along with your gamma ray and other logs when you are assessing or screening for reservoir heterogeneities. You can clearly see how the core data really matches perfectly, as well as even the porosity, which is a core dry porosity anyway, so it should match. All right, so let me quickly move ahead. By way of introduction, the bloodline of the business we do in the industry is to keep hydrocarbon flowing effectively, sweeping our reservoirs, maximizing our recovery from each of the reservoirs. And that is what we set out to do, resulting into this study. So we wanted to develop the DG reservoir, which is already matured. It has produced about 46% of the original stock, but we believe there are more opportunities in that reservoir. And so we set out to do that. Now, we have reservoir studies and well performances, that's production data from the wells, and new drill results. Now, all this highlighted one common thing. Stratigraphy is influencing how our fluid is moving, and it's influencing our production. So it's important that we pay attention to it. Now, some of the influences that we have seen on caused by stratigraphy, they include non-uniform fluid contacts. We're going to see that. We have oil bypass zones, water channeling, preferential oil sweeps leading to some zones being bypassed. And this led to decrease in oil rates and increase in water cuts in our wells. This is going to impact the ultimate recovery for the reservoir. So we paid serious attention to it. There are a couple of studies that highlighted key factors that control how water flows within the reservoir. But principal of all of the factors is the fact that the rate at which you are injecting and the volume, the velocity and the volume you are injecting and the permeability affects how your water moves, in space within the reservoir. If you're injecting very quickly, instead of having a homogeneous waterfront, and then you have stratigraphic contrast leading to maybe permeability differences within the reservoir. It's relative. The reservoir can be very great sand, but once there is a relative permeability contrast within the reservoir, you will now have the waterfront, instead of going homogeneous, is going to break out into fingers, preferring to move faster within low pressure zones where you have more porous or more permeable zones than others. Now that results into leaving behind some of your oil, and then your wells cutting water quickly, and then dropping down your oil rates. So we have seen some of these influences in these studies. Now, the data we use basically is all the available data. We didn't leave any single data out. So from conventional core data, well logs, 3D seismic data, we acquired saturation logs, and then pressure tests, and then we integrate all these things. Now, this data all fed into an art model and also a simulation model, which we use in this. And methodology basically is, we first of all start by saying, okay, so this reservoir has got this much. Is there further development opportunity within the reservoir? So we did a quick, simple art model, and then we simulated. And we saw that, yes, there are zones that were not swept that could be of interest. But the model was oversimplified because it was capturing some of these details of how the water is creating these bypass zones and all that. So we have to pro-cycle it go capture more details, more stratigraphic details in the model, and then simulate it again. And eventually we now landed with a very good model that is very representative of what is happening within the reservoir. And then after that, we went ahead, identify where we're going to put the well. At the first instance, where we choose the well, after refining the model, it turns out to be that that's not even the best location to go. So we have to move the well, optimize the well location to another location. And then after drilling the well, we produce the well, monitor the production, and integrate the data back into our models. And I'm going to be sharing some of the results from this. So quickly, the field A is located within the Miocene depot belt in the Niger Delta. It is basically located, the environment is within the wave-dominated delta, particularly within shore-face environment. That's why you see those clean sands that we're going to talk about. This is what it looks like on 3D seismic data. So basically, you can see some growth towards the major structural building faults. So it's synchronous with extension. And it's a nice three-way structure against the major structure fault. The reservoir was discovered saturated. It's been producing for about 26 years since 1997. A key point to note from here is that water injection started 5 months after we brought this reservoir on production. And at original condition, we have about 300 feet hydrocarbon column, out of which 1/3 is oil column, about 1/3 is oil column, and the rest is huge gas cap. Now, this reservoir has 7 wells. 2 are currently active, 5 inactive, and 2 water injectors that are currently down. And noteworthy is that the oil column sits on top of water. So we have oil water contact, and the entire oil column sits on top of the water. So pressure support comes from both bottom drive gas cap as well as peripheral water injection. So I'm going to highlight well 11H here. It is one of the key wells we're going to be looking at subsequently. The reservoir stratigraphy, the reservoir is Miocene in age. This is a core data. This is the base of the sand, and that's the top of the sand. And you can clearly see from the core data that we have coarse grain, very nice, almost homogeneous, basal section. And then as you go towards the top, it becomes datier. You have more clay content within the reservoir. Now, this is a graphical description of the core. So the base section is that nice, clean, and is becoming datier towards the top. Now, permeability, which is key here, ranges from as low as 50 millidashes within the shale section, but we have as high as 15 dashes. So that's how much permeability vary within the reservoir. We have permeability going all the way to 15 dashes. I call that section as superhighway, and we're going to see how that plays out within the reservoir. Okay, so what are some of these influences that we see during the opportunity assessment? Now, initial assessment, we assume a simple system where the hydrocarbon sweep goes smoothly from bottoms up, with flat oil water contacts and geosis, we are able to establish that we may have some regression. The gas cap will regress a bit, and we're going to have about 10 feet of the oil zone occupied by oil, gas zone, occupied by oil. Now, that was simple, and we identified an opportunity for a new drill and place it somewhere here. Now, in order to ground truth this, we went and acquired saturation log, one over here and one over here. When we acquired these saturation logs, look at this surprising results. This was the original GOC here. We're expecting only about 10 feet of the gas zone to be resaturated with oil. But this is what we found. We have over 30 feet, of oil displaced, of gas now displaced by oil. The impact of this is that there is not enough oil here for us to put that well. 2, the hydrocarbon that was initially in the regressive layer, which is clean, nice sand, is no longer there. It has moved into the transgressive layer that is very dirty and has some bioturbation. So that's a big challenge for us. So what we did was we have to revise the well plan. We have to revise the well plan, first moving it away from here. We have more hydrocarbon on this section, so we have to revise the well and bring it over here. 2, because we are no longer having a more homogeneous system, we are in transgressive layer, we have to find a way to optimize IP for the well. And so we thought, okay, let us cut across stratigraphy in planning the lateral section of the well. So instead of perfectly 90 degrees, lateral, we inclined it to about 90-95 degrees so that it will cut across and capture a lot of stratigraphic layers within the reservoir. All right, so how does that play out on our simulation model? This is one model that I have seen that looks like a carbon copy of what is actually inside the ground. I haven't gone in there, so I don't know how it looks in there. But from the data, all the data we have acquired in the reservoir, after building this model, all the data support exactly what the model is saying. Now let's look at a bit of that. Now, you see the fingering effect that I'm talking about. So initially we assumed the hydrocarbon is moving up nicely across the entire reservoir. We now found out that no, it's not doing that, the water, but rather it's looking for zones of easy least resistance and is flowing through there. Now that is resulting into some bypass zones. So here we have wells, this well and this well. Yeah, at this time that this model was built, they were actually doing so much. They were doing up to 2,500 barrels of oil per day. But we have wells, which I'm going to show in more details, somewhere around here that have fully watered out. And we keep wondering, okay, so a deeper well is doing a lot of hydrocarbon with almost 0% BS and W. But a well that is up deep is doing 95% water. What is really happening? When we check in the model, we discover that yes, we don't have uniform fluid contacts. We have water flowing, following zones of least resistance. Now, another important thing is this was the original gas or water contact. Now, the red is actually gas and the green is oil here. So sorry about that switch. Here is the opposite. I apologize for that. So you see that we have oil pushed into the gas zone, right? So what we were seeing in the saturation log, actually see it here. And this saturation is happening more from the side that we have the injector. So we have one of the injector here, which is pushing the pressurizing the reservoir from this side. And so you're having more tilting and more hydrocarbon pushed into the gas zone from that side. Now we drilled the actual well. When we drilled the well, what did we see? This is the new well that we drilled. The property here you're seeing is permeability property from the model, from the art model. So when we drilled the well, this was the oil up to that we saw from MDT data in this well. We recognize a few things. One, we have a shale layer here. So this layer that you see that is showing very low permeability. So that's actually a shale layer. That shale layer is just about 3 feet. But you will see the magic that these 3 feet play. We're expecting our GOC somewhere there. That's the estimate we have. And that's what the saturation logs were saying. However, in this case, we couldn't even see GOC. So we acquired test track data, MDT. And when we acquired the data, I'm going to show us the data. We discovered that from this point all the way up, we have gas gradient. While from that shale layer downwards, we have oil gradient. What does that tell us? What that tells us is that this shale layer is disturbing the equilibrium of the reservoir in this region, stopping the oil from expanding to equalize so that we'll have the GOC right there. If we don't have this shale layer, we'll have encountered the GOC there. But that shale layer is serving as baffle, preventing the expansion, the expansion of the oil column into the now gas column in that region for us to achieve a GOC here. That is exactly what the test track data showed us, which I'm going to show subsequently. Another thing we encountered was we have some hot sands here. If you look at the gamma ray, you see that it's dark. Here we have clean red indicating a lot of sand. But in this section, it looks very dark. What's that? That's also lithology difference. So we have very hot sand here, such that if not because of mud log data, we will have actually thought we are doing our horizontal inside shale. But this well came on an IP of about 1,700 barrels of oil per day, and it's currently doing about 1,000, and it has produced 1.6 million so far. Now let me go to the test track data. So on the test track data, so this is the new well, and this is that shale layer, 3 feet that I talk about. Now you can see the gas measurements, the pressure measurements. So that's the gas gradient. You can see clear gas gradient right up to this shale layer. And you can see your oil gradient nicely lined up below that shale layer. If you project from our engineering, is it engineering 101 or whatever it is, we know that if we project the oil gradient and the gas gradient where they intersect is where we expect our stability equilibrium, where the gas and the oil, gas and oil boundary, so our GOC. So this is where the GOC is supposed to be. And that's what we predicted. But in reality, this shale has distorted that equilibrium, and we have something different. Now, if not because of test track data, probably we wouldn't have been able to land this well in the oil column. I'm almost to the end. Now, we went back and looked at the oil saturation in the simulation model. And this is what we see. So you notice that we have some oil saturation here. And within this oil saturation, we have a well there. That 11 HST2 well that I showed you. This well was doing about 2,000 barrels of oil with only 5% water. Surprisingly, we have other wells within here and within here that are 100% water. Here, you see 77% water with oil rate only about 95% barrel of oil per day. And the well is somewhere here. So what really is happening? This one, the well is even deeper. The completion is deeper. This one is a bit shallower. So what's happening? It's very, very clear here that we have this zone. When we look at it on the permeability property, it's actually that layer that I call super high perm layer. It's that layer that has up to 15 days of permeability. So what will happen when you begin to produce your reservoir? The wells are going to sweep cleanly the hydrocarbon within that layer, and then the next water will break through and will now occupy that layer. And that's what happened here. So creating a bypass zone here, and then we have some oil above that water zone. So that's the situation we have. Now, in situations like this, we relied on this simulation model to help us identify, okay, which of the zones can we bring in? And so this well, as I speak, is still doing 1,500 barrels of oil per day. And the water has risen to about 40%. This is like 3 years since this simulation model was built. So this clearly highlights that the stratigraphy is influencing the well performance. Now, to bring it more to the dynamic world, that well that I showed you was actually this one. It's not very clear here, but this yellow, the deep yellow, is that high permeability layer that is up to 15 Darcy. And just below that, there is a little shale layer. Now that little shale layer again is about 5 feet or so. Isolated this well 11 HST from the water that is running, I call it river. So from the river that is flowing right above this lateral. So there's a little shale layer here. So that's what is causing the isolation between this river from the lateral of this well, which is in a bypass oil pool. And that is why the well is still doing about 1,500 barrels of oil per day. Now, this well, the hill is in the toe is in that super high perm layer. The well water has overrun it, and the well has skewed production. The same thing happens to this, and the results are the well performance are all shown over there. Now, what did we do? Because we encountered a problem. Our new well, which is this one, when we brought it in, it came at about 1,800 barrels of oil per day. However, within a few months, I think it's not up to 5 months, the water cut increased rapidly to about, I think, 60%. That was not what we're expecting. Yes, simulation model predicted that the water is going to rise, but not that sudden, not that quick. So we went back to our simulation model. We went back to check all the different wells, their location where they were completed within the reservoir in the simulation model, and we discovered something. There is this well that was producing high BS and WO. And this well is somewhat along the waterfront from the injector. During the curtailment, we had to shut down this well to obey government regulation. And so shutting down this well, that was when the water in this, our new well, went haywire. Now the suspicion is, could it be that this high BS and W producing well is actually diverting or creating zone of least resistance for the water to flow towards it, and thereby shielding this guy from taking much of the water? So when we investigated that on the simulation model, we discovered that is likely what is happening. So that's one. And then two, just like Zara et al. That I highlighted in the introductory section, highlighted, when your water velocity is high, you create viscous fingering. So your waterfront will start breaking out in different direction, and so not effectively sweeping your oil. So we thought, okay, could it be that we were actually ejecting very hard? And at that time, our VRR was about 1 in this reservoir. So we thought, okay, let's manage this by our water injection. So we drop our water injection rate, and then we observe. And this is the result. This well, that the oil rate came down, that the water started rising, all of a sudden the oil rate started going up, the gas rate started dropping. And then we also noted that 11 HSC2 well that I talked to you about that is up to now producing. We saw the same thing. In its own case, the water continued to rise, but the oil rate also started going up and the gas rate started coming down. So this tells us that this may imply that managing the rate, how hard we inject into the reservoir could also help manage the waterfront and how the water is getting to the wells. Yeah, sorry, I have little lag. Let me just continue from here. I'm almost rounding up. All right, so in summary, okay. So in summary, we have seen that we have influence of stratigraphy on flow of hydrocarbon, flow of water within the DG reservoir, and that resulted in our oil rates going down, our water cut going up, and even our gas rate increasing. But we're able to manage that by dropping our water injection rate, and also by reviewing the different well completions within the reservoir. The reservoir. We also saw that the saturation logs that we've acquired within the well, within the reservoir, clearly showed us some influences of stratigraphy. I forgot to show us that. So the saturation logs show oil zone at the bottom, and it show clean swept zone in the middle, and another oil zone at the top. And then the actual well results also show that shale layer that is clearly disturbing the equilibrium of the gas and the oil, resulting to a an oil down to oil up to that shale streak, and a gas down to also to that shale streak. Then, in conclusion, it is clear to us that no matter how small the stratigraphic changes are, no matter how subtle they are, they can cause significant distortion in how your water moves around, how you sweep your oil, and it can create bypass zones and channel your water. Now, I also want to highlight as lessons learned that data integration is key. Data integration is key. Don't leave out any single data when you're assessing your opportunity, when you're drilling your well, when you're assessing your production. Don't just look at the dynamic information, go to the static information also. Bring all of them together and you will see it. One very important lesson to take out is that footprints of reservoir stratigraphic influences on fluid can easily be identified in post-production saturation logs. So especially if you are flooding the reservoir, when you take post-production saturation logs, it may show you the influences of stratigraphy on your reservoir, because it's going to show you how your fluid is moving, so that is very key. If you don't have a new drill, you can utilize saturation logs to assess impacts of reservoir stratigraphic influences. Then another thing is water cuts, as well as oil production rates, can be influenced by these reservoir heterogeneities. So when your rates are going down, you need to look at the stratigraphy. So don't just think that probably is the chalk, because sometimes we think maybe we are overpulling the hydrocarbon and other oil reservoir pressure alone, but reservoir stratigraphy can also influence and cause your oil rates to go down. Then when you're drilling, especially where you're water flooding, it's important, and where you have stratigraphic influences, like in the case of our heterogeneous transgressive layer, you should consider integrating real-time pressure measurements, because it will solve the kind of problem that we have here, where our GOC wasn't where we expected, and in fact we were not able to even pick GOC from the well logs. And then finally, manage your water injection. Look at the rates at which you are injecting. Look at the VRR, and then look at how the water is moving, because your solution could be just dropping your injection rate, and then you will slow down the rate at which you're causing viscous fingering and flooding reservoirs that are in the pathway of that water. As best practice, we reevaluated our old data with new technology. The core data, for example, we use new technology to methodology, to evaluate it, and also the way we drive some of our logs, like the water saturation. We create some transforms using the core data to create those water saturation data. So it enables us to assess the volume that is remaining adequately or more correctly. Next slide, please. All right, by way of acknowledgement, I want to thank Chevron for hosting us today, and also for giving me the permission to publish this technical piece of work, to share it with you guys. And I also want to thank our partner, NNPC Limited, for also their permission. Then I want to thank NAPE for the platform, of course, for us to collaborate and share ideas that finds oil. And then lastly, not the least, my colleagues and co-authors that contributed to this work. I want to thank you. And thanks so much for your time and for your attention.
Thank you very much. Can we please appreciate Mohammed once again? You all agree with me that it has been a very stimulating discussion. So for the production geologists, we need to pay more attention to our stratigraphy going forward. When we saw drop in production, and we see increase in water is not about reservoir getting out of its AUR. So we need to pay attention to data. And I'm not going to do the summary. The chairman is coming back. He's going to summarize the paper to us. So I would like to invite the chairman of today's section once again, Mr. Segun Obileja. So I would also like to invite the sponsors representative to also join us on the podium, Mr. Shile Ogele. While the presentation was going on, we have some of our fellows here with us and also online, and I would like to recognize them. Mr. Kanu, NAPE, thank you for coming. We have Mrs. Pat Oshobu, NAPE, and also I saw Mr. Godwin Oshobu, I'm sure he just walked out. And on the virtual platform, we have Dr. Victor Ogujiofor, NAPE. And we equally have Mr. A. Bazuaye, also NAPE. So I'm going to hand over the mic to the chairman for the summary of the presentation and also for Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, I say thank you to Bill Aminu for a beautiful job done. And just as I said before I started, I said the topic looked interesting. The abstract looked comprehensive, and I was really looking forward to a good discussion. And it did not fall my hand, as we say in Nigeria. Why? Because it took us through what he called the challenge statement. In other words, what started the problem for them. And it was clear. They had a challenge of resolution from their tools, because what they saw in their tool is not what they were seeing in the result, which is something we face commonly in the oil industry. Imagine lowering a tool to 10,000 feet to measure lithology, and that tool can only average 30 feet into one small column for you to see. And that's the problem they saw. And they set out to solve the problem as to how do they improve the production from a field that had already done 46% of the UR. To me, that was beautiful. That already a reservoir or a field that has done 46% of what we thought it was going to do, a company still felt this should do more, and they wanted to see how they can make that happen. Challenge statement, very clear. And then they went into studies, into making use of their tools. I saw a very good use of the series of data that they said they had, the wireline logs, the core data, the core derived porosity, and then dynamic data like saturation and porosity logs. There they started seeing things they were not expecting. And it did make clear as to how they then went into modeling. And from the model, they had a picture of what they thought was happening. So in this business, you could have a picture in your mind, but you need to grant through that picture in your mind. And then they wanted to go drill a well, because they thought that well was going to solve the problem of not doing as best as they could. And then they quickly checked what the model showed them. And from the model, they said they saw something strange in one part of the field, which could mean that if they drilled that well at that part of the field, instead of producing oil, they will actually be producing water. And they quickly came together as a company, as a team, to say why, and they thought about it, and they brought in the concept of stratigraphy. So They have a series of hard data sets from logs, porosity, lithology, from discrete points. Then they had a model, and they brought the two together that told them that if you put this well here, you will probably be producing more water than oil. And they quickly reacted to that, shifted where they were going to place the well, and combining the result from the well and their model, they started seeing very strange things. Tilted contact. To those our students here, please, what that means is somebody is saying that underground we have a fluid layer that should be straight, tilting. Practically impossible when we think of it physically. But that's what they saw in their model. So a gas oil contact that should be, it's just like somebody pouring water in a bowl and somebody is telling you that the water in that bowl is not flat, it's tilting. They saw that in the model and they had to find a reason for it. And they went into the use of their data and their model, and what was the result? What I call the 3 V's. Please, you have to put that down. That when you are producing from their field and they are flooding with water so that the oil can go into the well, 3 things were critical. The volume of water you push into the field, into the reservoir, 1. The velocity at which you push the water into the reservoir, 2. The variability of the reservoir itself, 3 V's. And it is those 3 V's that they try to resolve. And immediately they got the understanding of those 3 V's. Volume, velocity, variability. They were then able to properly understand this reservoir, and that has resulted in a well that is doing beautifully well beside 2 other wells that are not doing very well. For you to picture that, it's like saying you fill this water with oil and water, and somebody is lowering straw from the roof. And then he put a straw in that corner, and the straw was bringing out water. And then he put a straw at this corner too, and the straw was bringing out water. And some group of people came together and said, hold on, if you really want to put the oil, put the straw in that corner. And in all this, they did not enter this room. All they just did was took data from that first straw that was producing water, and data from the second straw that was producing water, and then convolved the model in their head, and they said, if you want oil, put the third straw there. And that's what they did, which I think is very, very good. Lastly, I would say, I would really commend the team for 2 things. 1, if you take a good look at the work they have done, I can see the signature of 4 different set of skills or people. Geologist, reservoir engineer, petrophysicist, a production technologist. 4 different skill sets of people must have contributed heavily to arrive at this result. Even though it's a geologist that is talking, but there's no way you could have gotten this result. So yes, they did a very good integrated work. I also see power of critical thinking and reasoning, which is what I will please beg every young one that is coming into this industry. You could have first class, you could have whatever from the universities. The power of critical reasoning is important, and the power of observation. So you have 2, 10, 50 wells. If you do not observe and you do not think critically of what is happening, you will not get a solution, no matter what intelligence you want to bring in. Power of critical reasoning, very good. Power of observation, and the power of integration. And that is what led to the result they are showing today. I think it's beautiful. I have my question, but I won't ask yet. I will leave the floor for people to ask. Thank you very much. So, floor is open.
Okay, any questions? Do we have mic on the floor? Thank you, by the way, Chairman. It's excellent summary.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Biliamiu. My question has to do with your geo model. What was the grid size for you to have seen the 3 feet of baffle shale? And then, was it a constant grid size, or did you have to do variable grid sizes for you to see that?
Okay, so thanks for that. So it's a constant grid size, but so after you finish gridding, you interpolate. So you are able to fill up the spaces. So when we are propagating, so first of all, create the grid at very coarse, 50 by 50 feet, meters, sorry. Then, sorry? Okay, so in XY, 50 by 50. Then Z, we did, I think it's 5 feet by 5 feet. Now, after doing 5 feet by 5 feet, we now upscale the logs. So during propagating of the logs, so we now interpolate between them and then propagate, because we sample our logs every 1 foot. So for you to fit in every 1 foot of log into 5 feet by 5 feet grid, you have to interpolate the grid. So we interpolated the grid, and then so when we are propagating, we propagate every feet. So our model is, you can say, every 1 foot vertically. Okay, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Goodluck Adagbasa Ezomowo. I came very late. Apologies for coming in late. But with the good job that the chairman did in summarizing this your talk today, I think I can ask 1 or 2 questions. First, did you consider seismic? Did you use seismic in any way when doing this your evaluation? And I did. Maybe you must have mentioned it. Is these channels, are they deep water or are they shallow marine environment that you're looking at?
Okay, thank you so much for your question. So let me start with the reservoir. So it's not channel sand. They are basically surface sands. Yes, we have some fluvial influence at the bottom of the reservoir, but it's not more than like maybe 4 or 5 feet at the bottom. And then we now have marine transgression, and then little transgression, and then we now have sediments coming in as surface sediments. So yes, it's not channel sands. Then on the second question, yes, we integrated seismic. That is key data that we brought in, because wells only show you 1D, right? You don't know what happens in between them. So the only thing that helped us to propagate in between them was the seismic. So we extracted properties from the seismic, which we use like training image, if you will have it. In Chevron, we call it trends. So we created trends from the seismic data that we interpreted, and then use that to propagate the properties in 3 dimensions across the reservoir. Yes, so seismic is in fact is key. Thank you. I hope I answered you. So there's a question here, please.
Thank you, sir, for the presentation. So I'm following Risho Yusuf from EMR. So I really just want to ask a question as regards the shale occurrence that was redirecting the water. So I just want to confirm that is the shale occurrence a discontinuous event, or are there possibility that there are other shales also redirecting some other water from other regions and making the pressure really high and not just the injection pressure so high? Are there contributions elsewhere? I just want to ask if it has been checked to, as not to linearize to the injection pressure be the only source of the overpressured injection. Thank you.
Thanks so much for a great question. I'm smiling while you're asking because I love when I hear geologists, especially young geologists, interested in pressures, in water floods, engineering, dynamic stuff, not buried in geology like the chairman has said. So yes, we have done all our checks. Funny enough, this is the only producing reservoir in the entire field. So there is no any other reservoir that will contribute anything to this. However, because of the excessively high recovery, we are suspecting probably could that be a contribution from a reservoir on the upturn side that is juxtaposed, slightly juxtaposed against this reservoir. Could that be contribution of fluid, of oil to it, which is maybe leading to this high recovery? We are suspecting. There is nothing to convince us that there is that, but we are planning a new well into that reservoir. And if we put in, we'll know what really is happening. Either we encounter no oil there or whatever. So to answer your question directly, the shales are not continuous. The best that you can have is that they can span probably 1 kilometer or 2-3 kilometers, going across probably 3-4 wells. But there is no single shale layer that goes across the entire reservoir. There was none. And so that underscores the importance of paying attention to even localized shale layers. This shale layer, for example, that we encounter in the new drill, it cut across just a few wells. So they are localized. They are not continuous. The only thing that is continuous across the entire reservoir is the high permeability layer, and that is sand, which is at the top of the regressive 2 sand.
Thank you, Mohammed, for a great job. My name is Emmanuel Madawea. For my interest in the new project I'm doing, and also for the interest of my fellow students here, and just like the chairman said, I see an integration of 4 troublesome and argumentative siblings in this project. And the siblings are the geoscientists, the petrophysicists, the P-techs, and the PEs.
And operations.
And operations. Now, I call them 4 siblings, argumentative siblings. Now, my question is this. What are the soft skills you guys employ during those argumentative sections? You can't tell me that there's no argument. You can't tell me that PE will agree in total with what the G&G guy and petrophysicist says. So for our own interest, what are those soft skills that you guys employ to achieve this great job? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. That's an excellent question. Let me sell Chevron a bit. So in Chevron, we have what we call one team. And one team is a concept, is a mindset, is one team is taking the interests of the company above any personal interest. So whenever there is a problem, everybody comes hand on deck to seek a solution to it. So whatever personal preference or personal beefs or whatever, any issue melts away once it is company's interest. The interest here is we want to further develop the reservoir. We believe there are hydrocarbons that have been bypassed. We want to bring them out. And so we need everybody to put hands and answer the questions that will give us some comfort that if we put in that well, we're not going to waste the money. And thankfully, In 3 years, we have produced about 3 million from this reservoir, 3 million barrels of oil from this reservoir. So yes, that comes in, but the overall interest of the goal, the objectives of the team always supersedes whatever personal issues you're going to have. And I must also say that outside the one team spirit, there is personal relationship. Personally, I have developed a relationship with every one of us that I can call him in the middle of the night and say, I'm seeing something in this data that I don't quite understand. Can you download so information for me? And he will wake up and do it and send it to me. While I'm here, I asked the engineer in the office, because he couldn't come here, he has other things to meet up. I asked him, what is the current well test data saying about the performance of these wells? He's texted it to me. So that's how we are. So when you have personal relationship with colleagues, it makes it easy. In fact, they will do things that ordinarily they will not do because of that personal relationship. But in Chevron, we value that one team spirit, and building relationship is one of the 4 key pillars of how we do work in Chevron. So we strive to build relationship among ourselves so that, because there are certain things that it's only relationship that will get it done for you.
So, I mean, Chevron is the one sponsor, so we can market Chevron a little bit. So, in addition to that, thank you. A part of our training is that we train, and part of core value of Chevron is diversity and inclusion, apart from every other integrity, trust, ingenuity, high performance, concern for people and environment. Is diversity, just not the diversity, is diversity of ideas. The ability to listen to people, listening to what other people has to say. And it's part of the project management is you make your thinking visible, and you also help others to make their thinking visible. So you don't just shut down the contribution for others. So there is no contribution that is a bad contribution or something like that. So we've been trained to adopt those kind of principles. Yes, where you have some a disagreement, but not to be the extent that it's going to be disagreeable. So you're able to resolve it using all those kind of principles. So that's part of things we do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We have some questions online.
Okay. We do have online. Yes, let's take some questions.
Yeah. From Tobechuku Ude Akbe. Good afternoon, doctor. I have a question, sir. Why was polymer injection not considered in those steel zones? Then we also have another one from Oluwa Bukola Ajibola. Well done, sir, for this great job. We have really seen that stratigraphy plays a big role on fluid movement. My question is, the saturation log that actually revealed the 3-feet shale layer that acted as a localized barrier between the GOC. Also, how can I apply for the graduate internship in your company, sir?
Okay, thanks so much. I didn't pick the name again.
The first one is Tobechuku Ude Agbe.
Okay, Tobechuku. So thanks so much for your question. I am not aware if we are doing polymer injection in any field in Nigeria. I don't think we are doing that. So that addressed the first question. The second one is on internship. So I don't know what level he is in his academic pursuit. However, if you are undergraduate, Chevron recruits interns twice a year for internship. One is around, there will be tests around March, and the other one is around July, August. So you can apply, and then you get shortlisted, you sit for the assessment, and then you will be invited to come and start. And so we have so the information is posted on Chevron website, and then we have different forms of internship. So the one I just mentioned is undergraduate internship. Then we have graduate internship, which is an opportunity for students of master's program or postgraduate students to come and do their internship in Chevron up to 1 year, for a period of up to 1 year. So, oh, okay, so yeah, so you can stand, our interns. Sorry to put you up. So they are some of our graduate interns, and I think one is on the, okay, he's on here. All right, you can sit down. So we have graduate internship for those pursuing master's program or postgraduate programs. So in fact, Chevron is currently accepting applications for graduate internship. So if you're interested, you're pursuing any postgraduate education in anywhere in Nigeria or overseas, you can apply. But it has to be part of a requirement for your academic program. So that's another form of internship. That one is open right now and it's almost continuous. So you can apply almost all the time.
The polymer is more of enhanced oil recovery methods, right? And as of today, the cost is very prohibitive. And for you to even get something out of polymer injections, you have to, first of all, move from a peripheral water injection to kind of like pattern flooding to do that. And it's more applicable to, what do you call what's the API, heavy oils. Then I think the API gravity of this one is in range of maybe 40 or thereabout 41. So if you model it, you might not even get much from that.
Thank you very much.
Last question online. Oh, two more questions online. From Julius Adesu. Thanks for your presentation. Would you say this soft shell baffle was able to be resolved seismically? And then the other one from Awao Yahoo. What was the time taken from commencement of water flooding and production increase? Was the injector converted well or a new injector for this purpose? 3. How far was the injector to the well? It was 7. 4. NMPC is Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, not corporation, as in your acknowledgement slide. That's all online.
Okay, thank you so much, Julius. So let me start from the last one. So thanks for the correction. It's not a thanks. Then on the distance of injectors to the producers, the first injector is, I think, about 1 kilometer to 2 kilometers away from the first injector. The second injector is a bit closer. It should be about 1 to 1.5 kilometers away from the first, from the toe of the closest lateral or horizontal well. Then on the sequencing or on the type of injector, so an assessment of optimal development plan for the reservoir came up with starting injection right at inception. So that was why the injectors were drilled even before production started. And immediately we started production. 5 months after that, we brought on the 2 injectors. So the initial development plan for the field was start with injection. And we have seen that starting with injection from inception leads to better recovery. I won't say in all fields, but in a lot of fields that I've worked. So that was the optimal development plan for the field. So what are the first 2?
From Yahoo, what was the time taken from commencement of water flooding and prod increase? Then the second one, was the injector converted well or a new injector for this purpose?
Okay, so the injector, I've answered that. So it was planned and drilled as injector, so it wasn't converted.
Then how far was the injector to the well it was serving?
Yeah, so I've answered that. Typically 1.5 to 2 kilometers or 1 to 1.5 kilometers. Yeah. Okay, so chairman wants to ask this.
Yes, pardon me. So, quick one is that we've resolved now that the shale is not continuous. We've resolved that, so they are discrete shales, which means they are most probably not fully marine kind of shale. Then the next question is, is there anything peculiar about the shale that you have seen or that you have done or that you are going to do to see what is the characteristic of this shale that can make it predictive? You get where I'm going? I need to know when next I will encounter such shale in the next field I'm developing. What do I use?
So this is the kind of question that students don't like. All right. From my experience of this shale, I can say what you can use to predict that kind of shale elsewhere will be, if you have core data, you have to look at the core data. You have to look at all your wells, gamma ray particularly. So get the gamma ray, get your core, check if you can correlate your gamma ray to your core. If it's good representative, then go ahead, use your gamma ray and the core data to derive other logs, like the porosity, the core-derived porosity log. Because if you notice, the core-derived porosity log also highlighted where we have those shales. Then you also use transforms derived from the core data and the gamma ray that matches your core data and create permeability property. Now, with this set of data, if you have those shales, you will be able to pick them. And you do the 1D, because all that I've explained is 1D, right, with the well data. Then you now propagate this, upscale this, and propagate them in your model. So your model should be able to show you where these things are going. Seismic is not helpful on this, unfortunately, because they are fine scales, 3 feet, 5 feet. That is not how seismic will resolve it. Seismic is looking for 100 feet, 50 feet, probably, you know. So that's the best way to me. You can predict that kind of, those kind of shales in other fields. So I don't know if you have other ideas. You are matured in this business. So
please, if you can help us. When you take this shale into the elemental analysis, what is in this shale that is different from every other shale that is not possible before?
Right. I think Billy did a great job answering from that perspective. So the other thing we possibly could do is, if we can take the samples from those shales, especially from the core, and do maybe X-ray diffractions, elemental analysis, and things like that, trying to characterize it and be able to apply it to other areas. And especially, you know, most of those shales that have sealing capability because they have high content of kaolin, especially in Nigeria Delta, up to like 80% or thereabout. So we can check for mineralogy composition of that very particular interval and see what is happening. And so that could be the next phase of analysis and studies. No, I think he wants to add to what we discussed. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Tayo. I'm equally from Chevron. To start with, those shales, right, about 3 feet, they are below your tuning thickness, so you're not really going to get much continuity or interpretation whatsoever from that. Then in Chevron, we have models called EOD, environmental deposition, and we've modeled occurrences of shales and sand. And once we're able to lock down what our EOD is, it's relatively easy to predict that, okay, in a surface environment, how further out can you go before you have shale? And those ones guide us a lot in determining if we are likely to have such occurrences at specific intervals. Well, it's a proprietary discussion. So if NAPE wants it, if they want to pay for it, we are willing to oblige. Thank you.
Thank you, Tayo. Good job, man. Excellent. Good job, Billy.
So thanks, Dr. Tayo, and thanks, Mr. All right, okay.
Okay, thank you very much. I think some of the questions that my name is Abiola Shremeku, ex-NAOC. Some of the questions I wanted to ask has been asked, but without repeating, I mean, what I would just like to know is, we know that the reason why we're here, of course, sometimes is a learning process, So supposing someone wants to, replicate what you have done in another well, what are the limitations that you think they may encounter, and what is that thing that you tell them to do? Because, we've learned here, somebody may want to take it elsewhere, maybe like offshore. What are the limitations that you think they may encounter, and how can they go about it? Thank you.
Okay, thanks. That's a very good question. So to start with, there is no two geologic problems that are the same. They could be similar. So what we did here is different from what we do elsewhere. So we look at the peculiarity of the situation. We look at what do we want to achieve, and then we come up with the best way we believe we can achieve it. So look at the problem you have at hand and apply. You can pick a few lessons. So it's not everything we did that can apply to your reservoir. For example, you may not be water flooding your reservoir. So the dynamics is slightly different. But yes, you can pick a few things from here and apply to yours. So look at the peculiarity of your problem and ask yourself, what exactly do you need to do? There are certain things we did here that if you apply to another reservoir, is overkill. It's like killing a mosquito with a sledgehammer. So you have to apply fit for purpose solution to the problem. So my advice would be pick whatever you can pick from here that can apply to any situation that you have that can help you and apply it. Sorry? Yes, so this is offshore. Sorry if I didn't make it clear. So this reservoir is offshore. Some of the process and principles, they are geologic principles anyway, so you can apply them elsewhere. So thank you very much, Ma, for that question.
Thank you. Can we please give it again to Mohammed and the Chevron team? I'm sure we can all see the one team in demonstrations. Everyone was supporting in making sure that we all get the grasp, the understanding that we want to take away from this concept. We'd like to thank Chevron for sharing this with us, and you can see that everyone is very impressed with the work that you have done, and the essence of this platform is for all to share best practices and the knowledge so that we can all take it back to our various companies and be able to apply it to some of our. Thank you very much. We appreciate everyone for listening, both online and in the meeting room here. So on that note, I would like to appreciate the speaker for today on behalf of the Board of Trustees, the Advisory Council, and also the ESCO of NAPE for that stimulating presentation that we have had today. So, Yami, please come. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Very grateful. And once again, you didn't come on time. Okay, so one more thing. So we have a NAPE latte that we would like to always give to our speakers. Somebody should come and help me to open this. Okay, this is it. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. And to our chairman, Mr. Shegun Obilaja, on behalf of the Advisory Council, the Board of Trustees, and the ESCO, want to thank you for this section. Thank you very much. I know you have this, so you can have another one.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so and we would also like to pin the sponsor rep, appreciating Chevron. Please, let's appreciate Chevron once again. Chevron has been a strong supporter of NAPE year in, year out, both at the conference and also at the technical session. So on behalf of the Board of Trustees, the Advisory Council, and the ESCO, I would like to give you this lapel. For you, you can have it and take it to your blood. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so we are doing well with time. I would like to invite the representative of Chevron to give the sponsors remark. So I'll now invite Mr. Ashile Ogele for Chevron's remark. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, what an exciting session this has been. I would like to stand on existing protocol, Chairman, if you don't mind, and the President-elect of NAPE, fellows, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It gives me great pleasure today to present the sponsors' remarks on behalf of the Chairman and Managing Director, Chevron Nigeria Limited, Mr. Rick Kennedy, who is unavoidably absent. Let me start by appreciating NAPE for using its platform to organize events that pull together critical professionals and industry experts to discuss core issues that are germane to the development of our industry. I'm particularly excited about the technical business meetings. And I'm sure you found today's presentation on the impact of subtle reservoir stratigraphic on dynamics of fluid, a case study of the DD reservoir by our very own Billy Aminu Mohammed. That was an excellent job. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sure you found it very stimulating, going by the questions and the interest. So for Chevron, partnership is a core value, in addition to the others that my colleague mentioned. So we are happy to be sponsors of today's meeting, and I would like to reiterate Chevron's unwavering commitment to sponsor similar events as we pride ourselves on our commitment to be the partner of choice, because we like to partner organizations and associations such as NAPE to build productive, collaborative, trusting, and beneficial relationships. So Chevron, we've consistently sponsored events such as the NAPE Annual International Conference and Exhibitions, dinner events, technical business meetings such as this, amongst others. The efforts of NAPE in promoting professionalism in the oil and gas industry to enhance the competencies and also disseminate information for public use is highly commendable. We are unwavering in our support for this effort, especially technology-driven sharing moments such as this. So once again, on behalf of the chairman and managing director of Chevron, I would like to applaud every one of us for attending and participating in this very educative, technical business session. So on behalf of Chevron and the organizers of today's event, I would like to wish you an enjoyable and a delectable lunch. Thank you for your attention. My name is Chile Ogele. I'm the manager reserves, RM framework, production allocation, and technology on behalf of my chairman and managing director, Mr. Rick Kennedy. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. No, we see take the announcement. Okay, just for a few moments, we'll take NAPE announcement. I'll call on the publicity secretary to run through the announcement quickly.
All right. Thank you very much, my PE. It's been an exciting time today. And thank you, the speaker, and thank you for our sponsors. So we'll have technical meeting in Benin chapter on the 27th of July. So, and it's going to be hybrid. So for those of you that want to attend, please do well to attend. The link is showing there. And then perhaps you don't get the details, you can also follow us on our social media platforms and also check your email. The link will be there. Please go back. Next. All right, so this is to invite everyone to our mini conference, which is holding from 6th to 9th of September 2023. It's actually a joint conference, student conference, being organized between NAPE and NMGS, and is holding at the University of Lagos. The theme is Retooling Geoscience Education in Nigeria, Current Trends and Emerging Realities. You are all invited to attend. All right, the big one is here. The NAPE 2023 conference is here team repositioning the oil and gas industry for future energy dynamics. Just to invite everyone, if you have not registered for the conference, please do well to register for the conference. And the unique thing about this year's conference is that our registration this year is actually online. So you can actually get on the conference website and follow the link and do your registration seamlessly without stress. And then for those of you that want to register corporate, also get in touch with the NAPE Secretariat to get the registration code that you can actually use to register your members. Next. Okay, the call for abstract for this year's conference is still open till the 31st of July. So if you have not submitted your abstract, please do well to submit your abstract between now and the ending of the month. And the sub-teams for this year's conference are all listed there. You can also check the conference website as well to get more details on how to submit your abstracts. Membership dues. So for those of us that have not paid our membership dues, please do well to reach out to the NAPE Secretariat and pay your NAPE dues. And those are the dues for different categories. Next. All right, so there is a special workshop being organized by Women in Geoscience and Engineering, ably led by Mrs. Adedoja Ojelabi F. NAPE. Women in Geoscience is actually partners with NAPE, and they are organizing this free 2-day workshop for students, young professionals, academia, and of course, professionals in the industry that want to take advantage of the training. Is actually themed Fundamentals and Practical Application of Structural Geology for Geoscientists, and it's going to be holding physically at NAPE Secretariat. There is no online component to it. If you want to register, I'm sure you can't see the details there, but if you want to register, you can meet Adako. Adako is over there, so you can send your name and send your name, your affiliation to the number that she will give to you, so that they can actually get you registered for the training. It's actually on first come, first serve basis. There are limited seats available for the training. Next. All right. Our 2023 summer school is here, and we have two courses. The first one is on machine learning in geosciences, data analysis, and practical applications, and that will be delivered by Mr. Rasaki Salami and Okon Divine. Please do well to register now. For inquiries, you can actually reach out to the Secretariat, Mr. Lawrence Oswago, or you reach out to the Assistant Editor-in-Chief, Dr. Sunday Amoyede of Total. Next. Now, this is the second course for this year's summer school, titled Introductory Reservoir Engineering for Geoscientists, and that will be delivered by 4 persons. 4 persons are Toku Akinyemi, Isioma Okolo, Esene, and Ibioku Alabo. Please do well to register now. Next. All right, so as NAPE being a Nigerian association, we have gone beyond just being a Nigerian association, but to also see how we can expand our reach beyond Africa and the world at large. We have also tried to reach out to other NAPE-like associations across other parts of the Africa, just to see how we can collaborate and do stuff together. And again, we are also partnering with this association, PGESGB. It's actually a London-based, a Britain-based association, and they are organizing a conference in September from 20th to 24th. So the idea is for us basically is to collaborate with them to promote their event while they promote NAPE conference on their platform as well, so that we can capture as many foreign delegates that we can capture to NAPE conference this year. And of course, as you know, that NAPE conference is not just a local conference, but it's annual international conference and exhibition. So we want to see how we can leverage on that international component of the conference. So we are not just having local participants, but we're having participants all over the world attend NAPE conference. Next. All right, so just to mention, we still have openings for technical meetings. Just as Chevron has sponsored this month's technical meeting, perhaps there are companies here that are looking forward to showcase their work and what they are doing. Please do well to reach out to the President-elect, who is Chairman NAPE Continuing Education Committee, Mr. Abiodu Ogunjobi, or the NAPE Secretariat, Mr. Lawrence, to register your interest to sponsor and present at the NAPE Lagos Technical Meeting. If you also have interest to make a presentation at other NAPE chapters across Nigeria and all over the world, you can also reach out to us, and then we'll get in touch with the chapter coordinator to register your interest. Next. Next. All right, so for the NAPE conference that we've talked about, our exhibition floor is filling up so fast. So please, if you have interest in exhibiting this year, the floor plan is almost gone. Please do well to reach out to the exhibition committee, ably led by Belgo Abidemi, or reach out to the NAPE Secretariat and register take a slot to showcase your product, your services, and the impact your company is making across the oil and gas industry. Next. All right, so just to mention, we have NAPE HMO package, which we are offering in conjunction with Venus Medicare. If you have family members that you want to register, under this package, please do well to reach out to the Secretariat. And of course, this package actually comes at a subsidized rate than what you will get out there. So as NAPE members, we care for the health of our members, and we want you to take advantage of this package. Thank you very much.
All right. So it's with great pleasure that I would like to thank everyone for sitting all this while listening, and also to thank Mr. Mohamed Biliamiu for that stimulating presentation. Also, thanks to Chevron Nigeria Limited for sponsoring this July technical business meeting. We appreciate Chevron as highlighted by the Chevron representative. Chevron has been a strong supporter of NAPE, both at technical section and also at the conferences. I would also like to recognize our friends who have been part of this technical meeting from the Nigeria Navy. Please, can you just stand up for recognition? I mean, we recognize you guys for coming around. Thank you. Thank you very much. So on behalf of the Board of Trustees, the Advisory Council, and all the ESCO that are in the meeting and offline today, I would like to thank everyone. As mentioned by the PS, please look forward to another technical meeting in August and also across all our chapters. So lunch is served, and we are going to take our lunch in this order. The serving point here will be for the sponsor, the ESCOs, the fellows, and also the chairman. And we also have 2 serving points to the left. So that will be for every one of us. So lunch is staff. We're not going to take too much of our time. Thank you very much. And thank you very much. And we'll just quickly take a good photograph, the speaker and the Chevron rep, and before we go for lunch. Thank you.
Please, our fellows can join us upstairs for a picture. Please, our fellows here present,